Chance of Meatballs. All-time favorite book. There was a movie about 5-6 years ago that came out with this book, and the only thing that was the same in the book and the movie was that food fell from the sky. So this is the book I really, really like. So I thought today I would read you guys Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. How's that sound?
Excuse me?
No, Mason.
We were all sitting around the kitchen table. It was Saturday morning, pancake morning. Mom was squeezing oranges for juice. Henry and I were betting on how many pancakes we could eat, and Grandpa was doing the flipping. Seconds later, something flew through the air, headed straight toward the kitchen ceiling, and landed right on Henry. Pancake on his head. After we all realized that the object was only a pancake, we all laughed, even Grandpa. Breakfast continued quite uneventfully after that. All the pancakes landed in the pan, and all of them were eaten, even the one that landed on Henry. That night, touched off by the pancake incident at breakfast, Grandpa told us the best tall-tale bedtime story he'd ever told. It began across an ocean, over lots of huge bumpy mountains, across 3 hot deserts and 1 smaller ocean. There lay the tiny town of Chew and Swallow. Now, in most ways, it was like any other tiny town. It had a main street lined with stores, houses with trees and gardens around them, a schoolhouse, about 300 people, and some assorted dogs and cats. There were no food stores in the town of Chew and Swallow. You didn't need any. The sky supplied all the food they could possibly want. The only thing really different about Chew and Swallow was the weather. It came 3 times a day, at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Everything anyone ever ate came from the sky. Whatever the weather served is what the people ate, but it never rained rain, and it never snowed snow, and it never blew just wind. It rained things like soup and juice. It snowed mashed potatoes and green peas. Sometimes the wind blew in storms and hamburgers. The people could watch the weather report in the morning, and they would even hear a prediction on the next day's food. When the townspeople went outside, they carried their plates, their cups, their glasses, their forks, their spoons, their knives, their napkins with them. That way they would be prepared for whatever the weather served. If there were leftovers, and there usually were, the people took some home and put it in their refrigerators in case they got hungry between meals. The menu varied. By the time they woke up in the morning, breakfast was coming down. After a brief shower of orange juice, low clouds of sunny side-up eggs moved in, followed by pieces of toast. Butter and jelly sprinkled down for the toast, and most of the time it rained milk afterward. For lunch one day, hot dogs were ready in their rolls, blew in from the northwest at 5 miles per hour. There were mustard clouds nearby. Then the wind shifted to the east and brought in baked beans. A drizzle of soda finished off. Dinner one night consisted of pork chops, becoming occasionally heavy with ketchup. Periods of peas and baked potatoes were followed by a gradual clearing with a wonderful jello setting in the left. The sanitation department of Chew and Swallow had a rather unusual job for a sanitation department. They had to clean up the food that was left in the houses and sidewalks and lawns. The workers cleaned things up after every meal and fed all the dogs and cats. Then they emptied some of it into the oceans for the fish, the whales, and the turtles to eat. The rest of the food was put back in the earth so that it would be richer for the people's flower garden. Life for the townspeople was delicious, until the weather took a turn for the worse. One day, it was gorgonzola cheese all day long. The next day, it was broccoli all over cooked. And the next day, it was Brussels sprouts with peanut butter and mayonnaise. Another day, there was a pea soup log. No one could see where they were going, and they could barely find the rest of the meal that got stuck in the log. The food was getting larger and larger, and so were the portions. The people were getting frightened. Violent storms blew up frequently. Awful things were happening. One Tuesday, there was a hurricane of bread and rolls all day long and into the night. There were hard rolls and soft rolls, some with seeds and some without. There was white bread and whole wheat toast and rye bread. Most of it was larger than they'd ever seen bread and rolls before. It was a terrible day. Everyone had to stay indoors. Roofs were badly damaged, and the sanitation department was beside itself. The mess took the workers 4 days to clean up, and the sea was still full of floating rolls. To help out a bit, the people piled up as much bread as they could in their backyards. The birds pecked at it a bit, but it just stayed there. It got staler and staler. There was a storm of pancakes one morning and a downpour of maple syrup that nearly flooded the town. A huge pancake covered the school. No one could get it off because of its weight, so they had to close the school. Lunch one day brought 15-inch drifts of cream cheese and jelly sandwiches.
Oh, yummy.
People ate themselves sick at the end of the day with a stomachache. There was an awful salt and pepper wind accompanied by an even worse tomato tornado. People were sneezing themselves silly and running to avoid the tomatoes. The town was a mess. There were seeds and pulp everywhere. The sanitation department gave up. The job was too big. Everyone feared for their lives. They couldn't go outside most of the time. Most homes had been badly damaged by giant meatballs. The stores were boarded up. There was no more school for the children. So a decision was made to abandon the town of Chew and Swallow. It was a matter of survival. The people glued together giant pieces of stale bread, sandwich style with peanut butter, took the absolute necessities with them, and set sail on their rafts for a new land. After being afloat for about a week, they finally reached a small coastal town which welcomed them. The bread held up surprisingly well enough for them to build temporary houses out of it for themselves. The children began school again, and the adults tried to find places in the new land. The biggest change they had to make was buying food at the supermarket. They found it odd that food was kept on shelves, packaged in boxes, cans, and sky, except rain and snow. The clouds above their heads were not made of fried eggs. No one ever got hit by a flying hamburger again. Nobody dared go back to Chew and Swallow to find out what happened. They were too afraid. Henry and I were awakened to the very end of Grandpa's story. I still remember his goodnight kiss. The next morning, we woke up to see snow falling outside our window. We ran downstairs for breakfast and ate it a little faster than usual so we could go sledding with Grandpa. It's funny. Even as we were sliding down the hill, we thought the snow smelled like mashed potatoes. We could see a giant pat of butter on the top. That is the story, Cloudy with a Chance. Now, if you like that story, and you like Chew and Swallow, and you want to find out what happened, all you have to do is get the book, Pickles to Pittsburgh, which takes you back to Chew and Swallow, and you find out what happened. I'm not going to read this one today. Great book for you guys to check out from your library, right?